mindful helps oneself to be present. Being present helps to understand and to be compassionate, which can be a strong basis for effective and enlightened leadership. And we'll talk now in this session about the science behind that to back it up. Our next speaker, she is back at Pioneers on the Academy stage for the second time and even used to live in Vienna. Her name is Megan Jones-Bell, and she's the Chief Science Officer of Headspace. Can you raise your hands if you know Headspace? It's pretty much 50% in the audience plus. For the others who don't know, it's the world's leading meditation app. Megan spent the last 15 years developing digital health interventions. And before Headspace, she actually had her own startup and was a professor at Stanford. So I'm really excited about listening to her and share what she has to say about the power of pioneer leadership. Please welcome on stage, with warm applause, Megan Jones-Bell.
I want to break free. I want to break free. I want to break free.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be back with you for a second time. And thank you to Pioneers for inviting me. So I'm excited to talk to you today about the power of mindful leadership. And as Khan mentioned, what I'm talking about here is about how by learning this practice of meditation, you can bring more awareness, compassion to your leadership, whether that's at work or in society. So let's talk about this health problem that we have in the world today. Mental health is an enormous problem. 1 in 5 adults have a mental health condition. In the US alone, that's 40 million people. Physical health is also a staggeringly large problem. Half of adults live with a chronic disease. And while there are solutions out there that help address these problems, whether it's counseling for mental health or diet, exercise, medications for physical health, there's a piece of this puzzle that's missing because these solutions only address the individual. They don't address what's around that individual or how, as an individual, we show up in society, particularly as leaders. So I believe that we have a collective health problem. And meditation is a really interesting solution for this collective health problem because meditation affects how we think, how we feel, and also how we show up and interact with others, how we show up in the world around us. The research on meditation shows that it can reduce stress, anxiety, depression, improve focus, improve your sleep, and also improve compassion. In terms of physical health benefits, meditation has been shown to lower blood pressure and also help with weight loss. And that's just a few of the effects. So I like to think about meditation as being like exercise for your brain. It's a practice that you do and a habit that you form that's actually flexing the most important muscle. And let's talk about our brains for a moment. So anatomically, our brains are wired to have different functions, which are each associated with a specific role that they play for us. And the way that these functions work is that there are neural connections that spark them. They're pathways that are reinforced over time. And so let's say you're learning a new language. What you're doing when you're learning the new language is you're specifically building connections or reinforcing those pathways in the area of your brain that's associated with language. The process by which our brain changes is called neuroplasticity. And meditation has been shown to actually reduce the size of an area of our brain called the amygdala, which is also known as the fight or flight center and is responsible for stress and fear. And while meditation can deactivate negative traits, it can also enhance positive ones. Meditation has been shown to increase activation in the prefrontal cortex, an area of our brain that is our rational mind. It's the part of the brain that adolescents haven't fully developed yet. And that's responsible for things like focus and planning, decision-making. So the research on meditation shows that it also works wherever you are, whether that's at home, on the field before competition or helping with your recovery afterwards. And it also works at work. So we know that meditation changes our brain. And one of the cool things about the fact that it changes our brain is that after you've established the habit and those effects start to take root, it can be less deliberate. That experience of being less stressed, more resilient, more focused just comes naturally. It's not something you necessarily have to think about as much because you've changed the way that you relate to your thoughts and emotions. So at Headspace, we're on a mission and our mission is to improve the health and happiness of the world. We're interested in solving this collective health problem. And in the past, meditation was something that was passed from a master to pupils. Meditation has been practiced for thousands of years. And now, it's something that can be mainstream. So I want to make Headspace, for those of you who haven't used it before, concrete, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing. So Headspace is intentionally designed to be simple, inviting, and enjoyable to use. Our app offers guided meditations that are complemented by progress tracking, social features, and really fun videos that I'll show you an example of that help encourage ongoing adoption. And importantly, we've designed it in a way that it's accessible. So we want to bring this idea of mindfulness, of being more fully present, aware, more compassionate to everyone. In order to do that, we need to create something that everyone will use. And I think we're on our way there. We've had about 25 million downloads of the app to date, but we have a lot left to work on. So one of the things I wanted to share with you is how meditation actually changes our experience of our minds. So I've talked to you about how it actually changes the brain, and I'm going to share a video that really helps explain the way that we think about this practice of mindfulness.
Take a moment to imagine a bright blue sky stretching off into the distance. Feels pretty good, right? This is a perfect metaphor for the mind, a blank canvas on which thoughts, feelings, and experiences appear. Okay, so maybe there are just a few clouds, but they tend not to bother us or distract us too much, especially if they're the cute little fluffy variety. This is how the mind appears when it's calm, bright, serene, and happy. But life isn't always easy. Sometimes there are a lot more clouds in the sky. Sometimes they might be the dark and stormy variety. Occasionally, we might even begin to wonder if a hurricane's on the way. It gets to the point that it's hard to think of anything else. In fact, sometimes we get so obsessed by the clouds that we forget about the blue sky altogether. But it's still there. Every time you're in a plane and you fly through the clouds, there it is, right? Without fail, blue sky. It's easy to forget that what we're looking for is already here. And that's why we need reminding.
Okay, thank you. That's one of my favorite Headspace videos. I always enjoy it. And I really love this metaphor of the blue sky and this concept that what we're trying to cultivate is already there. The practice of meditation is helping us get in touch with that part of us that always exists. So that concept in and of itself is really empowering, and that's what makes this so accessible for people. What I want to talk about now is some of the research that we've done and further understanding the effects of very brief practices of meditation and mindfulness. So what we know about our app is that the effects are both immediate, short, and long-term. 10 days of use of our app is associated with measurable improvement, and that effect is further amplified after 30 days. I'm going to tell you two stories about our research at Headspace. And this first study talks about crutches, and the second study talks about hot sauce. So in this first experiment, which was done by David DeSteno's lab at Northeastern University, the researchers randomized participants to two groups. The first group was assigned to Headspace for 3 weeks, 10 minutes a day of meditation. The control group was assigned to use another app for cognitive training for 10 minutes a day. After that 3-week training period, they brought the participants into the lab, and they when they came into the lab, there was a waiting room with one open seat. So naturally, the participant sat down in the open seat. Then an actor entered the room on crutches with a walking boot on, showing visible signs of pain. So in this experiment, compassion was measured by whether or not this participant got up and gave their seat to the person in pain, thereby relieving their pain. And what they found was that the meditators were significantly more likely to give up their seats and relieve the pain. They had become more compassionate after just 3 weeks of meditation training. And in this second study about hot sauce, it was another really interesting social psychology experimental design. And what they did, 3 weeks of Headspace or 3 weeks of solving logic problems online daily. After that training period, they came into the lab, and they were matched with a partner. Now, their partner actually was a research team member, so keep that in mind. And they were told that the first task was a speech and language task. So they needed to prepare a speech and give their speech to their partner about their life's dreams and ambitions. When they did that, their partner responded with really mean, harsh feedback. So that was what's called the provocation. Then they did a few other things. Later in the experiment, they had a taste test. And they knew one thing about their partner, which was that they did not like spicy food. And the participants were told that they were randomly chosen to prepare a spicy food sample for their partner. And they could use as much of 3 condiments as they wanted. There was lemonade powder, chocolate syrup, and hot sauce. So aggression in this case was measured by how much hot sauce the research participants put in the sample cup, which they knew would be put in the mouth of their partner in its entirety. So you cut to the punchline. The meditators poured significantly less hot sauce. So this opportunity to retaliate was more favorable for those who had meditated. They had become less aggressive after just 3 weeks of meditation training. So I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. What if everyone in the world could increase compassion and decrease aggression in just 30 days? Imagine how that would impact how you show up at home, how you carry your stress at work, and how you interact with others in your community. Even a small change could have a huge ripple effect. So for me, on those days when it feels like there's no way I can find 10 minutes and do anything for myself, including meditate, I ask myself, do I have 10 minutes for my son? The answer is always yes. Do I have 10 minutes for my team? Of course. Do I have 10 minutes to invest in how I interact with my community? I sure hope so, because the world needs more leaders like that. So one of the best places to think about leadership is, of course, the workplace. So I want to address that and share some research with you. Now, this research is not about Headspace. It talks about business case studies and research more generally on meditation. And the theme here is that we're really trying to understand how to pioneer the application of mindfulness to improve productivity in a healthy way, in a way that doesn't burn people out, in a way that improves their health and happiness while still helping the business. So some of these studies really help reveal the opportunity there. This first one showed that happier salespeople sell more. They're actually more productive than those who are not happy. And we know that meditation does increase happiness. A Gallup study showed that companies who have engaged employees outperform those without engaged employees by 200%. Research shows that mindfulness can also improve employee engagement. And an Aetna study showed that employees gained an average of 62 minutes per week of productivity, which was valued at $3,000 per employee per year in cost savings. Mindfulness can also benefit people who are absent from work. So if you think about people who are on disability or sickness absence leave, when they're offered mindfulness training, this one study showed that they were much more likely to return to work sooner. A study that we just had published that was done by our research partners at the University of California, San Francisco, and University College London with employees at Google and Roche showed that using Headspace for 8 weeks resulted in a significant reduction in depression and anxiety. It also reduced the employees' perception of job strain and improved their positivity and sense of well-being. And this benefit is recognized not just by us, but by a number of really inspiring leaders. Jeff Weiner at LinkedIn, Ariana Huffington at Thrive Global, who makes meditation available to her employees, and Sheryl Sandberg, who talks very publicly about how it helps her personally as a leader. So I want to talk for a minute about how to make this more concrete for you, how to bring some of these benefits into your own organizations, to your own for yourself, for your friends and family, and also how you show up in the world. So if you want to establish a habit, there are 3 very simple steps. One is you need a context cue, then you need the response, so that's the new behavior. You pair those and repeat that, and it becomes a habit. So the protocol here is you pick a simple behavior like learn to meditate or practice meditation. You find an environmental cue. So this is a really key step in habit formation. You need to find something that's already part of your routine that you don't think about and attach that thing. That's the hook, that's the trigger for the new habit. And so what you're doing with habit formation is you're leveraging what you already are doing. I mean, how many of you think about brushing your teeth before you leave the house in the morning? None of us, right? It's automatic. So if you find that contextual environmental cue, add that new behavior, whether it's meditation or something else, to it, repeat that. 100% of the time, you'll have a habit, and eventually, you won't have to think about it anymore. So that could be 10 o'clock calendar block, meditate, daily repetition. I want to talk about how we do that as an organization. And we'll have a chance to practice that together in a minute, actually at the same time that we do at our company. So what we know is that humans are social people. We like to do what other people are doing. And so we can use that to help improve people's health and happiness. So we have these group meditations at our company at Headspace twice a day. And the key thing here is that they're not back in a conference room where no one can see. They're in the main center space of our company. You can't go into the kitchen without seeing it. It's where we have our all hands. And importantly, people with high social capital in our organization attend it every single day. Our CEO is there. The executives are there. And this is really important because it gives people permission to take that time and do it. We also protect that time for them by blocking everyone's calendars for half an hour that overlaps with these group meditation opportunities. So we provide the time. We also provide the space. If somebody doesn't want to meditate in a big group, you can also go to a quiet room. You can go to a pod that we designed. And we also empower people to bring it to their community. It's really important to share this with others. And so we provide benefits that our employees can share. So we've talked about how leadership is really key to the changes that we need to make to improve the health and happiness of the world. And this solution to this collective health problem starts at work, but it also starts with this engaged, aware, and enlightened leadership. So, if I advance, this work starts with all of you as leaders, and it starts now. So I'd like to invite you to join me and have Andy, our co-founder of Headspace, who was trained for 10 years as a monk, guide us through a very brief, so for those of you who are new to this, it's just going to be a 5-minute meditation. So let's try
take
it.
A moment just to get comfortable. Sitting with your eyes open, nice soft focus. And when you're ready, just taking a couple of big deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you breathe in, noticing how the body expands. And as you breathe out, noticing how the body softens. And with the next out breath, just gently closing the eyes. So in closing the eyes, just becoming more aware of the other senses, just feeling the contact between the seat or the floor beneath you. Feeling the weight of the hands and the arms on your legs. And just take a few moments just to settle into the space around you, noticing the different sounds, just allowing them to come and go. And then as you bring the attention back to the body, noticing how the body feels. Starting at the top of the head and just very gently scanning down through the body. Noticing what feels comfortable, what feels uncomfortable. Scanning down all the way down towards the toes. And at the same time, just beginning to notice the movement of breath in the body, that rising and falling sensation. So you might feel it in the stomach, the chest, the diaphragm. Can't feel anything, just gently placing your hand on your stomach. And we're just going to rest the attention, the focus on that rising and falling movement. Don't worry if the mind wanders off. As soon as you realize it's wandered, just letting go of that and gently bringing the attention back to the breath again. So if you find it easier, you can count the breaths as they pass. 1 with the rising sensation, 2 with the falling sensation. Just up to a count of 10 each time. Each time just gently bringing the attention back to the breath. And then letting go of that focus, just becoming more aware again of that feeling of weight, contact of the body, and just starting to notice the space around you, the sounds again. And then when you're ready, in your own time, just gently opening the eyes again.
Thank you. I think we don't have time. I think we don't have time for questions.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if we have time for Q&A. Right?
I will take the time.
Okay.
I see a lot of relaxed people and interesting.
All right.
And we have a few questions already in Slido. So how do you, sorry, just a minute away. How do you measure a stress level and its decrease?
All right. That's great. That's up my alley as a question. So you measure stress in a couple of ways. Most of the research on meditation specifically uses self-report measures. So it's asking people to kind of answer questions about how their stress level is and different aspects of how it affects them in their life. And these are scales that we use in psychology very often. They're validated. We also include physiological stress measures. So we often take blood samples in Headspace research where we can look at cortisol and changes in gene expression. So there's a lot of really interesting ways of measuring stress. And a lot of the newer studies are using more physiological measurement.
All right, and there's a question which is, do you plan to localize the app? Currently it's only usable for English-speaking people.
Yes, we do. And if you're interested in that and you live in this region, you can talk to my colleague Miriam, who's right here in the front row. So.
All right. Meditation makes you spend less time daydreaming. Doesn't that decrease your creativity? So is it true that you spend less time daydreaming?
Daydreaming, well, it does improve your focus. And so I would say it actually, interestingly, I mean, creativity is pretty hard to measure as a construct. But I would say no. I mean, one of the things about being more focused is that you're more intentional. You're not as distracted by the noise. I mean, I talk about this from my own experience as for that 10:05 in that morning meditation, I've had a few cups of coffee, I have like a stacked day of meetings, I have hundreds of emails to answer. After that 10-minute meditation that we do as a company, I am so much clearer about what I want to accomplish. My ideas are clearer to me in my mind. So that's my subjective experience. I don't think it's harming my creativity. I think it's actually helping me tap into it more easily.
We're unfortunately out of time, but last question, because it's a quick answer. Is it better to meditate in the morning or in the evening?
I would say morning, because the morning meditation will still help you sleep better. Because it's about reducing your what's called hyperarousal during the day is actually what helps improve sleep. So you can do it at night, but the benefits are going to be stronger if you do them as you go into your day.
Back again. Please give it up for Beck and Jones. Thank you.